Why is it that only Japan never left X?
なんか推し活のために必要です。
もう毎日暇がさえあれば推しのツイートを確認してます。
This isn't just a story about social media addiction. This is a story that reaches for the real reason behind what Japanese people cling to, what they fear, and what has saved them. Let's start with the numbers and just how strange Japan really is. In 2025, Japan has roughly 69 million monthly X users. That's about 57% of the population. More than 1 in every 2 Japanese people is logged into X. Globally, that puts Japan in second place. First is the United States with around 100 million users, but once you look at the population ratio, the picture flips. The US sits at about 30%. Japan sits at 57%, which means in real terms, the country where X has penetrated the deepest is Japan. The numbers get even more extreme when you look at younger people. Almost 80% of Japanese in their 20s use X, 8 out of every 10. But this isn't just a youth culture thing. 61% of those in their 30s use it, 48% in their 40s. Even in their 50s, roughly 1 in 3. There is no other country on earth where a single social network has soaked into every generation like this. So why did this happen only in Japan? Well, it started with a coincidence actually. Twitter was originally designed for the English language, and yet somehow, miraculously, it looked perfectly into the language of this country, Japan. The famous 140 character limit on Twitter was actually reverse engineered from the 160 character limit of English SMS. It was a spec decided entirely for the convenience of English speakers. But that spec turned out to be quite by accident, perfect for us Japanese. Why perfect? Because of how compact Japanese is. So let me try a quick example. Imagine I just line up at the famous ramen shop and I want to post my reaction. In English, I might write, waited 2 hours in line for this ramen, and honestly, it was 100% worth it. Life-changing. It's roughly around 90 characters. So how about the same thing in Japanese? 2時間並んだラーメン、マジで人生変わった。Just like roughly 20 characters. A single kanji can carry a mountain of meaning. Japanese can communicate the same information in less than half the character of English. So with 140 characters, what would be one line in throwaway in English becomes in Japanese a full sentence, an argument, even a story. Well, Japan has long had literary tradition of this. The 575 of haiku, the 31 syllable tanka, the practice of compressing meaning into the shortest possible stringing of the words. Going back over 1,000 years. But of course, almost no one is, composing haiku on X today. But the cultural muscle memory of packing meaning into short text combined with a social network that enforces a character limit. For Japanese people, it was a feature that fit like a glove. When the rest of the world started using Twitter, only the Japanese, without even realizing it, were holding an unfair advantage. But here's the thing we can't ignore. In 2017, Twitter doubled its English character limit to 280, and the Japanese, Chinese, and Korean were left at 140, which means this advantage wasn't unique to Japan. So why is it that despite having the same conditions, only Japan and not China, not Korea, became the X superpower? The answer is concentrated in a single day. March 11th, 2011. The Great East Japan Earthquake. Magnitude 9.0, roughly 22,000 dead and missing combined. And in that moment, across all of Japan, the phone networks and email services collapsed. I was in Tokyo that day. The shaking came up from below, violent, and lasted and lasted. When it finally stopped, the first thing I tried to do was reach my family and friends in distant cities. The phone wouldn't connect. email wouldn't go through, no matter how many times I sent it. In the middle of all that, I happened to open Twitter, and the post went through. The timeline was flowing, and I could send a message there. While phones and email were almost completely down, social media, Twitter, specifically, was still alive. I still remember it clearly that day. I used Twitter to report that I was safe and to let people know I was stranded, that the train had stopped and I would be spending the night inside a Tokyo office building. And that day, I'm sure almost every Japanese person in Tokyo did the exact same thing as me. That was the moment we learned in our bonds. When something really happened, the only thing that connects is Twitter. Of course, 15 years have passed and other communications infrastructure has been, strengthened far beyond what it was back then. But had Twitter etched into us that day, if anything happened, check X first, is carved into the body of the Japanese people, and it has never faded. Because after the disaster, the Japanese meteorological agency, local government, the police, every JR, railway company, every official institution in Japan started releasing their most critical information first on X, before TV, before news website. X first. That became the Japanese standard. Earthquake alerts, train delays, typhoon passes, active fires, suspicious person reports. For every what if of daily life, the first thing a Japanese person opens is X. And what's more, when it comes to urgent, real-life information in Japan, it's not just official institutions. Ordinary Japanese people like me are often the ones providing the most useful information. For me personally, when I'm standing on the train platform and want to know about the delay, the first thing I open is X, because there will always be someone, a passenger from a station before mine, a person actually stuck on the train who has posted exactly where the train is right now and how late it's running. This is why Japanese people don't leave X, because if they did, they would lose part of the safety net of their everyday life. So disasters curved X into Japanese society as infrastructure. But for all the talk about Japan being earthquake-prone, disasters don't happen every day. Given how massive X usage in Japan really is, there has to be another reason it's so hard to let go of. One of those reasons is something deeply Japanese, the culture of honne and tatemae. Tatemae is the public-facing self you show to the world. Honne is what you actually feel inside. So Japanese people have for centuries kept relationships and social order intact by switching constantly between these two.
情報収集のために使ってるっていう感じです。こう自分の闇を吐き出す場所に。
At work, you smile at note, even when your boss gives an unreasonable order. With family, you say everything is fine. With neighbors, you stick to harmless small talk. So Japanese society is fundamentally a society held together by not showing your real feelings. But honne doesn't disappear. The emotions you can't say out loud, the resentment, the desire, the political frustrations, they have to go somewhere or a person breaks. And the place Japanese people chose to release them was X. The most telling proof of this is Facebook. In the 2010s, Facebook crushed every other social network on Earth, except in Japan, where Twitter was always above Facebook. The reason is simple. Facebook is a real name platform basically, a social network built on broadcasting your real name and face. To Japanese people, was nothing more than an extension of tatemae. You can't write your honne in a place where your coworkers and your family will see it. X was different, anonymous, multiple accounts allowed, use any avatar you want. The freedom to separate the real you from the you the world sees struck a deep chord in the Japanese psyche. In fact, it's not at all unusual for a Japanese X user to run multiple accounts in parallel. A main account, a locked account, kagiaka, a back account, uraka, a fun account, oshiaka, a venting account, guchiaka. Inside one person, several selves run side by side. This is a deeply Japanese workaround for surviving a society that runs on tatemae. The further away from your real-life relationships, the easier it becomes to speak your honne. That is the second bond between the Japanese and X. The disaster made X social infrastructure. The culture of honne and tatemae made X emotional infrastructure. There's one more reason X is impossible for Japanese people to let go of, and that reason is Oshi. Oshi means someone or something that you devotedly support. The activity of supporting your Oshi is called oshikatsu. So what can be an Oshi in Japan? Almost anything. Idols, voice actors, celebrities, VTubers, manga and anime characters, athletes, food, local government mascot, anything. Japanese people make Oshi out of just about everything. A 2024 survey by Dentsu found that almost 40% of Japanese people said, I have an Oshi. When you include fans and people they support, more broadly the figure rises to almost 50%. Nearly half of all Japanese people have something they support. Talking about among women aged 15 to 29, the number jumps to roughly 76%. Oshikatsu is no longer a niche otaku hobby. It's a national cultural phenomenon, and the heart of that phenomenon is X. Why? Because X is the easiest place in the world to find someone who loves the same Oshi as you. Alright, so for example, one of my own Oshi is Aston Villa of the English Premier League. The Premier League is genuinely popular in the world, of course in Japan too, but the Japanese supporters tend to flock to the big clubs, Manchester United, Liverpool, Arsenal and City. Aston Villa fans in Japan are not exactly common. In my entire life, I have never once met an Aston Villa fan in person in Japan. Every single match, I have moments where I want to say something. Sometimes I don't have though. And there is no one at work, no one in my friend group who can talk about it with me. So I open X, I search hashtag Aston Villa FC, like Aston Villa or Villa in Japanese. And there, in the same instant, the goal was scored. Villains across Japan and across the world are screaming with the same intensity. You know, historic win, best manager in the league, send a reply and prize back. Send a follow and from tomorrow onward, fellow brothers of the same Oshi lineup in your timeline. This isn't unique to football. As I said, Japan has unbelievable number of Oshi out there beyond sport teams, obscure anime, regional idol groups, niche manga, just anything you can't imagine. No Oshi community is too small to exist on X. In fact, one survey found that over 80% of women who do oshikatsu have a separate account dedicated entirely to it, in addition to their main account. For oshikatsu, X is not just a social network, it's an invisible, gigantic stadium where everyone who loves the Oshi gathers in real time from across the country and the world. For Japanese people, losing this stadium, it means losing the only place where they can talk about their Oshi, so they don't leave. But X doesn't only embed itself into Japanese life through these special moments. We are, opening X in every single ordinary moment, every single day. There's another strange piece of Japanese X culture that I can't leave out. We Japanese call it Nakanohito. Literally, it means the person inside. It basically refers to the single employee actually running a corporation's official account of X. The name is never made public, of course. I think your country probably has favorite corporate accounts too. But the posts probably look something like this. Introducing our new product. Available now. Learn more at our website. Hashtag new launch. celebrating 50 years of innovation. Thank you to your customers. We remain committed to delivering the best experience for our users. Something like that. Basically polite, safe, absolutely never going to damage the brand. The kind of post that is, for better or for worse, that's perfect. Japanese X is different sometimes. The Japanese corporate accounts that have actually mastered the platform, even the most famous household name companies, crack jokes, complain about Mondays, ride trends to play around, and even tangle with their direct competitors' account. There's a clear personality embedded in the tweets. So let me give you one symbolic example. The official account of Nissin Cup Noodle. Yes, the same cup noodles sold all over the world in your country as well. Posted a promotional image celebrating the 10th anniversary of milk seafood noodles. The first image was normal looking ad. A woman smiling and holding the product with a park as the background. A perfectly standard advertisement. But 15 minutes later, the same account posted this. The milk seafood image we just posted got hit with a brutal note from my boss. He said, "This doesn't have enough cheese feeling. Please wait a moment while we revise it." Attached was the original ad with the boss's red pen revision notes scrabbled all over it. Make the hair feel more cheese-like, make her smile bigger, show that the milk seafood is loved by things other than humans. A revised version was posted, but again, cheese feeling still insufficient. On the third version, the final image which finally satisfied the boss was completely recognizable from the original. A scene of chaos like nothing we've ever seen in any advertisement on earth. This entire sequence went massively viral in Japan. This is what a Japanese corporate account looks like. And obviously it went so much well. And cup noodle is not a special exception. As I told you, home appliance makers, stationery brands, convenience store, like in Japan, this kind of intimate personality rich posting from companies and brands is just an everyday sight. So why did only Japan end up like this? The answer has actually been written across every chapter of this video. The anonymity is high. Followers connect with companies not as consumers, but as friends. The real-time nature is high. Corporate tweets flow naturally as part of daily life. The 140-character limit, ironically, is what pulls a personality out of a brand. In Japan, the products you use every day, even the brands you genuinely care about, may exist on X as something closer to a friend than a company. And so, both companies and users have ended up in a relationship neither side can cut, or rather, neither side even wants to. So why is it that, while the rest of the world is moving away from X, only Japan keeps going in the opposite direction? Every single factor I've explained today has stacked up, layer on layer, until X had soaked into the very depths of Japanese life. It isn't that Japan can't let go of X, it's that X has become Japanese society itself, and so there is nothing left to let go of. This is no longer a question of convenient or I like it, like electricity, like running water, like trains, like smartphones. X has been built into this country as a piece of life infrastructure. Right, finally, I want to leave you with one question. Are you still using X or have you already left? So please tell me your thoughts on X in the comment box below. And if you'd like to enter Japan from a different door, please check out this next video to see another face of this country. Until next time.